welcome to today's AZTurboCourt e-filing training for case initiation. My name is Stephen Kimmelman with Intrasys. We are the makers of AZTurboCourt. And today's training webinar will focus on how to initiate cases in the various Arizona courts using AZTurboCourt. I'll also be covering the differences between the counties. There are different rules and so forth, so that you understand when you're initiating in one case, in one court, it may be different than initiating in a separate court. And so I will compare those differences for you. We'll cover things like how to make your payments, how to manage and search for your filings, how to create initiating filings faster if you have to do lots of them, financial reports, managing your profile, things like that. And so with that introduction, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at the software. Okay, so we are now looking at the AZTurboCourt Filer Portal. Now this is a testing and training environment, hence the red warning sign, but this looks very similar to what you will encounter when you are in production. And what will happen is that your firm will need to set up, if they haven't already, an AZTurboCourt account. And then once your firm's AZTurboCourt account is set up, the company administrator, they can add additional users. And so they can add you as a user to the AZTurboCourt system for your firm. And when that happens, you will automatically receive an email from the system once they've set you up as a user. It'll include a link that will bring you to turbocourt.com. It'll include your username, which is going to be the email address that they use to set up your account. And then the password that they have set up for you initially, that they will give to you separately. It won't be in that same email. So for security purposes, whatever password they use to initially set up your user account, they will give that to you separately. And then at that point, you can log in and manage your own profile, change your password, and so forth. Okay? Now, if you happen to be the one who is going to be setting up your firm's AZTurboCourt account, then you're going to need to learn how to do that and how to administer it. And so you've got two options if you find yourself in that situation. One is you can register for one of our administrator training webinars. However, I just ran one yesterday, and so we probably won't be running another one for a few months, but we do have the recording from that administrator training available. And so if you're needing and wanting that, just send me an email separately. My email is stephenk@turbocourt.com, stephenk@turbocourt.com, as you see on screen here. Just send me an email and let me know you'd like a link to the administrator training recording, and I can get that out to you right away. Okay? And that's going to walk you through how to set up your firm's account, all the different administrator roles, adding users, and so forth. Okay? All right. But again, assuming that you're not in that situation, that you're just simply going to be a user of the system within your firm, then you'll get your login information, your password, and you can proceed from there. Okay? And I'll go ahead and do that myself right now as well. Okay. So when you first log in, it brings you to your home page, which is where I am right now. And if the jurisdiction isn't currently showing as Arizona, you'll see a couple places where you've got a change jurisdiction link. Just go ahead and click on that and navigate to Arizona. It will then show you all of the different case types that you can file into through AZTurboCourt in Arizona at that point in time. Again, this is a testing and training environment. This may be a slightly different list than what you actually see in production. Okay? And so when you log in, you're going to want to manage your profile. So I click on the profile button here in the upper right corner. The other way I can access it is from the user menu on the left-hand side. You'll see there's a My Profile link that'll bring me here as well. And so you can see certain fields have an asterisk. Those are required, others do not. Those are optional. If you are an attorney, you're going to want to put your state bar number and the corresponding issuing state here in your profile. So even though there's no asterisk there, it's not required. You're going to want to do that if you're an attorney, because very often AZTurboCourt is going to be generating forms for you on your behalf that are going to be filed with the court. And the header of those forms is populated with your information, including your bar number. So to alleviate having to enter your bar number each and every time you're creating a filing, by having it here in your profile, we'll just automatically grab it from your profile and pre-populate it as needed. Okay. You also have the option of establishing a security question and answer. I recommend that. This is in case you ever forget your AZTurboCourt login information, your password. This will allow you to automatically recover it. And so just select from one of the available security questions, provide some sort of a corresponding response, and any changes you make to your profile, you want to scroll down and click the update button to save that. Okay, a couple other quick things I want to show you on your profile. So this time I'll click on this My Profile link in my user menu to go there. Okay, so here we are, same screen. If you ever want to change your password, simply click on this arrow, right-facing arrow, where it says Request New Password. And you'll be informed that you've just been sent an email. So go ahead and open up that email, click on the link within it, and that will allow you to safely and securely reset your password. Okay. One last thing on your profile. Go there once more. You'll also notice there's two other tabs, one for email preferences, one for text notifications. So let me briefly explain what happens when you successfully submit a filing to the courts via AZTurboCourt. You will start to receive automatic status updates pertaining to that filing. So for example, when you first electronically submit that filing, you'll receive a message that may say something like, thank you for submitting your forms to the Pima Superior Court, for example. You'll be notified once we processed your filing, something to that extent. That essentially tells you that their system was able to successfully consume everything that you just sent them. There weren't any technical issues, right? Because you might have sent it at, who knows, 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, right? Nobody's there, but their system is telling you, yes, we've got it. It's all good. Then later in the process, you may receive another status update that says, we've accepted your filing, filing number 12345, and here's your new case number, right? So if you're doing case initiation, they're going to establish a new case number. It'll be included in that status update, okay? Those status updates, those notifications, and I use some terms synonymously. So just so you know, if I say status update or notification or message, those are essentially all one and the same thing. And so you can see these automatically sent messages, these notifications, these updates, anytime you're logged into AZTurboCourt. So for example, one of the ways you can do that is simply by clicking on this messages link off on the left side in your user menu. That will show you all of your incoming messages for all of your filings. There are other ways to access these messages as well. I'll show you that as we go along, okay? So anytime I log in, I can see those messages if I want to. But you're also given the option of requesting these status updates via email and or via text message. And that's what these other two tabs in your profile are for. And so let me quickly show you that. I'm going to go ahead and click on email preferences. So you've got three choices here. One is no emails at all. I'll just log in regularly and check the status of my filings. And that's perfectly fine, right? No, there's no problem with that. If you do decide you want those notifications to be sent to you also via email, then you've got two choices. The distinction here is simply whether or not how much information rather is included in the body of the email, okay? Now, if you're like me, you may be inclined to say, well, no, really, don't send me any extra email. I've got enough in my inbox as it is. I'll just log in regularly and check what's going on with my filings. And as I said, that's actually perfectly fine. However, I do want to bring your attention to these checkboxes below, because these do indicate various scenarios where an email notification might be sent to you. Now, I say might be because it really depends on the case type you're filing into, the jurisdiction you're filing into. They don't all trigger notifications at each of these scenarios. But as I look at these, there's a couple that really jump out to me if I'm the filer. So for example, if for some reason an error occurred during the filing of my submission, and that is to say, it didn't make it all the way through to the court, or if for some reason the court rejected my filing. Now that frankly doesn't happen very much anymore when you're using AZTurboCourt, because there's a lot of safeguards that are built into the way we've designed AZTurboCourt to work with the specific rules of the Arizona courts to alleviate the likelihood of that. However, we can't, of course, guarantee that the courts aren't going to find some reason to reject the filing, so that certainly still could happen. So imagine it's the end of the day on Friday, and you put together a filing and you electronically submit it, and you're done for the day. You shut down your computer, you go home. And you're not going to check back in maybe till Monday afternoon. Well, if for some reason that filing actually never went through, I probably don't want to wait until Monday afternoon to find that out, right? And so by saying, yeah, okay, in a situation like that, go ahead and send me an email, I'm going to be proactively notified that that just happened, and then I can jump back onto that situation and tend to whatever needs to be tended to there, right? Similarly, potentially with a filing being rejected, I may not be checking my TurboCourt filings for 6 hours or something like that. It may be pertinent that I get on that right away. So just something to think about. Obviously, make whatever choices you want to make. You can come back to your profile at any time and change any of these settings, but that's something to think about. And I'll just go ahead and click Update. And I'm just going to go back to my profile to show you the SMS text notifications tab. You can also request whether or not you want these notifications to come to your cell phone or wherever you access text messages, SMS messages. And if you want to do that, you simply provide your cell phone number, click Update, and then we will, our system will send your phone, whatever phone you put in here, whatever mobile number you put in there, a code, right? You probably have done this before if you've ever set up text messaging before. There'll be a new field that appears here asking you to enter the code we just texted you. Enter the code for verification purposes, and once you do that, then from that point forward, you'll receive text messages that are updates on all your filings. If at any point in time you decide you no longer want to receive those text messages, just come back here to your profile and remove your phone number, and we won't send those to you anymore. Okay? So there you go. That's some key pieces to your profile. Lastly, before we start creating filings, is I want to tell you the fastest and most direct way to get technical support if you're ever needing technical support for any of your AZTurboCourt filings. And that is, in the upper right-hand area, you'll see a button called Help. I think there's a few screens where it may say Support, but again, they're one and the same thing, Help and Support. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that Help button. This brings us into our support area. And in the menu, click on Contact Us here on the left. And what you're going to see is that there is an area dedicated to just Arizona court filings. And there is a direct phone number for their support center for technical assistance. And this is absolutely the fastest, most direct way to request technical assistance for your AZTurboCourt filings. Okay? So if for example, if you were to reach out to us, to AZTurboCourt, we would simply redirect you to these folks because these are the folks that handle tech support. Okay? So that's just the Help area, and then Contact Us. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and start creating some initiating filings. All right, I'm going to log out as this person, and I'm going to log in as somebody else who's been creating lots of filings so I can show you more functionality. So I'm going to log in as Karina. She's been creating all sorts of filings. And the first thing you probably have noticed is that when I logged in as Karina, on my home page, there's a lot more information all of a sudden showing up here. So let me describe what's happening here. Each one of these rows represents a unique filing. Now, they may be on the same case, I do several filings on the same case. They may be on different cases. Each filing, or what we call a form set, again, those are synonymous terms, so a form set and a filing are one and the same thing. Each one is given a unique form set number. So there is no other form set number in the entire TurboCourt system that matches yours right here, for example. Okay. Then the submission name that gets generated, the case type that you're filing into, and then the status. And there are multiple statuses. I'll talk about that as we go along as well. If it's an existing case, it'll show you your existing case number. These are the 5 most recent filings that I've been working on. Okay, so we're bringing you the 5 most recent. So if you're still working on it, you don't have to go find it. You can just click on it and go right to it. And so if you do in fact need to look at or work on any of these first 5 filings here, I can simply click on any of these form set numbers, and it will simply take me right to that filing, and I can do whatever it is that I need to do with it. Okay. Now, of course, you're going to have access to all of your filings. So I'll show you a little bit later on how the search screen that will allow you to access any of your filings. But for the sake of convenience, we show you the 5 most recent you've been working on. You also see some indicators here about new messages and new e-service requests. With regards to the new messages, these are those status updates as to what's going on with my filings, right? So as soon as I've delivered that filing, I'm going to start receiving these status updates. Yes, we've received it, we've accepted it, whatever those messages happen to be. And so one of the ways, if you remember, I said you could click on this messages link, and so now it's showing me I've got 247, that's a large number, unread messages, and that same number is going to appear here. It's just another way, if I click on the 247 here, it's just another way of accessing that same messages screen. The important thing for you to know is that you're not required or obligated to read those particular messages. They're just courtesy updates, right? If I happen, none of these were delivered yet, but let's just assume that one of these filings was already delivered to the court, I could click on that form set number, go into the filing, and see what's going on with it, see the status of it, right? I don't actually need to read that message if I don't want to. So if you read the messages, fine. If you don't, that's okay. This number will grow, and it's not an issue, all right? So just an FYI there. E-service we're actually not covering in this particular training because it only applies to your subsequent filings. But if I'll just let you know that if other attorneys in the state are working with AZTurboCourt on an existing case and filing additional documents into that existing case, and they e-serve you, they use AZTurboCourt's e-service capabilities, then rather than you receiving paper documents from them of what they filed with the court, you'll get an email. And that email will have a link, and when you click on that link, it will take you to the documents that they just filed with the court. Hence, you've been e-served. And when you log in on your home screen, this will show you the same thing, that apparently there's been 5 unique filings that I've been e-served on. And I can click on that number 5, and it will take me to them. I can see what case it's for. I can click on the link and look at the documents that the other attorney just filed, and so forth. So that's as much as I'll say about e-service in this particular training. If you want to learn more about e-service, I cover that in depth. There's a lot to see about e-service. It's really fantastic, actually. But I'll cover that in the subsequent e-filing training. I'm actually running one of those tomorrow. So if you're registered for that, great. If you can't make it, I would say register for it anyway, and then you'll get the recording, and you can see all about e-service if you're needing to know. Okay, so this is, again, my home screen when I'm an active filer and I've got a lot of things going on. And so I've got messages, I've got incoming e-service requests, and my 5 most recent filings. So I want to begin a case initiation filing here in Arizona. And for purposes of this training, we're focusing on general civil filings. And so I simply look for this general civil case type, and I click Start Now. All right. And then I'm going to indicate which county I want to file into, and we'll proceed from there. So let me speak briefly about the different counties and the different rules that they have and requirements requirements that they have, on sort of the different ways that they do business. And think of this as 3 different approaches, or 3 different sets of rules, if you will, for filing into the various Arizona courts. All right, so you've got Maricopa. That's one sort of approach, one way of doing business. So Maricopa has its own way of doing business. Then you've got Pima. They've got their approach and their rules and requirements. So that's a second way of a second approach, or a second set of rules for filing into the Arizona courts. So you've got the Maricopa approach, and then you've got the Pima approach. And then the third way is what I call the all other counties approach. Basically, any county that is not Pima or Maricopa, the rest of them, they share common rules and requirements and an approach to receiving your electronic filings. Okay? So the Maricopa approach, the Pima approach, and the all other counties approach. Now, it's important to note that at this point in time, Maricopa is not able to receive case-initiating filings electronically. Now, you can use AZTurboCourt to file into Maricopa on any of your existing cases. And again, I cover that in the subsequent e-filing training that I'll be doing tomorrow. But if you're initiating a case in Maricopa, you still will need to do that in the traditional means of a paper filing. Then, once it's in their system, you can use AZTurboCourt to continue filing additional documents into that now existing case. Now, Maricopa is planning to allow for case-initiating filings electronically at some point, and AZTurboCourt will certainly be first in line to make that available to you, but we just don't know what their timing is, okay? So for purposes of today's training, which is focused on case initiation, we're going to be looking at only 2 approaches, the Pima approach and the all other counties approach, all right? Okay, so let's say I'm wanting to initiate a case in Pima, and it defaults the location to Superior Court, because that's the only option that there is in Pima, okay? But let's say, for the sake of argument, that I want to initiate that case in Yavapai Superior Court. Well, they do have multiple locations, and so in that situation, I'm going to need to select the appropriate location, okay? From there, I simply click Next, and for purposes of this particular training, I would click I'm starting a new case in this court and click Next, and that's it. Now, before I do that, though, I want to bring to your attention a very, very helpful guide that we created for you. You may have seen it here at the top of the screen. We call it the General Civil Quick Guide. It's a 4-page PDF, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this right now. And it's a quick guide overview of these 3 different approaches: the Maricopa approach, the Pima approach, and the all other counties approach, and the commonalities and the differences between these 3 different approaches, okay? So what you can and can't do, and variances. So for example, when you're attaching documents and your own documents in Maricopa and Pima, your max doc size is 10 megabytes. But in the all other counties, that max doc size is only 9.5 megabytes. Important for you to know, right? So there's a general filing information, which is what we're looking at right now. And then as you scroll down, there's a case initiation section. And you see here, not applicable for Maricopa at this point in time. And then the differences between Pima versus the all other counties when you are initiating a case, okay? So that's a really helpful guide. I highly recommend you download that to your computer, print it out, whatever is convenient for you. And then the last 2 pages are for subsequent filings, which again I cover tomorrow in tomorrow's training. Okay, so that's our General Civil Quick Guide, and you can, if you don't already have a copy of that, just come to the Arizona General Civil application, and you'll see the links to it there. Okay, so proceeding with initiating this case, I indicated that I wanted to file in whatever county I'm filing into, and then I'm starting a new case. And then I would simply click Next, and it would bring me to the short AZTurboCourt guided interview. So when you're creating a filing, you're simply going to do 3 steps. And this is true whether you're initiating a new case or you're filing additional documents into an existing case. It's still the same process. 3 simple steps. step 1, you answer a few questions. Step 2, you attach your documents. And step 3, you electronically submit everything, including any fees that are due. Okay? So answer some questions, attach your documents, electronically submit everything. Okay? Now, when it comes to case initiation, there are a lot of rules and requirements by the different courts, including specific documents that they need. And all of those rules and requirements and ways of doing business are built into the logic of AZTurboCourt. We know exactly what they need based on any case initiating filing scenario. And we will make sure that you follow those rules and requirements so that, number one, first and foremost, it doesn't, you're not likely to have it rejected, right? That's a good thing. And then also, it's actually going to speed up the processing by the clerks because they know it's already gone through all of that upfront validation. And so they're able to much more rapidly process your initiating filing, okay? And, oh, let me just take a quick look. I've got a question here. There is not a, the question is whether or not TurboCourt has a training mode that you can use on your own. No, but if, for example, you're not able to sit for this training or you want to share it with a colleague, there'll be a recording of this training that gets sent to you tomorrow, and you can review it or any section of it anytime you'd like, and you're welcome to share that with colleagues as well. Okay. So I hope that helps. Okay, so what's going to happen is that when you answer these case initiating questions, we know exactly what information the court needs, and we'll make sure that you include it and do whatever validations we can so that, again, it alleviates the likelihood of them rejecting your filing and also alleviates delays in the processing of your filing, okay? And so what's going to happen when you answer these questions is that AZTurboCourt's going to generate several, in addition to validating those sorts of things, it will generate a lot of documents for you so that you don't actually have to create them yourself. So for example, the civil cover sheet, that's going to be automatically generated for you. It's going to be fully filled out based on the nature of what it is you're filing. Summonses are going to be automatically generated for you for each of your opposing parties. So whether you're opposing one person or a dozen, we'll generate all the summonses for you. A certificate of compulsory arbitration will be automatically generated for you and digitally signed. That's a required document by the courts when you are initiating a case. And interestingly, Pima used to use that certificate of compulsory arbitration, but they have now moved to something called the FastStar certificate. AZTurboCourt knows that, so when you're initiating in Pima, we'll make sure we generate the FastStar for you, okay? And then there may be other documents also automatically generated for you, again, depending on the nature of what it is you're filing. And then, of course, the filing fees are going to be automatically calculated for you. Now that we know exactly what you're filing, we can calculate the filing fees to the penny for that particular jurisdiction's fee schedule so that there's no guesswork about how much needs to be paid. Again, no delay because of an underpayment, an overpayment, anything like that, okay? So that's what that's all about. All right, so rather than watching me type and creating this filing, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and load a filing that I've already answered the questions to, so I can very quickly walk you through that. Okay. And I see there's a question about fees and what if the fees are waived, and that really depends. There's a number of different scenarios where that might happen. So let's hold off on that because I'm actually going to show you that as we go through this. And yeah, that's an important question. All right. So I've gone ahead and loaded a questionnaire that I've already filled out, so I can show you some more functionality, but let me just back up here and show you where we're at. So I'm doing an Arizona General Civil filing, and for this one, I'm showing you Pima Superior Court, and then I'm going to start switching back and forth between Pima and the All Other Counties group to show you the differences between Pima and the All Other Counties group when you're doing case initiation. But for right now on this screen, we're going to be doing a Pima filing. Okay, so I click Next, starting a new case, great. Clicking Next again, and here we are. So I simply am going to click Next, answer the question, click Next, answer the question, click Next. Because every single time I click Next, that's what saves my answers. So I don't have to remember to save them or basically every single time I click Next, AZTurboCourt automatically saves my answers and knows what I've completed. So if I'm in the middle of this and I get pulled away from my desk, not a problem. AZTurboCourt knows exactly what I've done to this point. I can finish it later today, tomorrow. I can finish it at home. It doesn't matter because it's all web-based. So once I log in and I come back to this filing, everything that I did up until that moment is saved, and I can just continue. Okay? So as long as I click Next, it saves what I did on that page. All right, so first it wants to know how many attorneys are representing the plaintiffs. You can list up to 10. For simplicity's sake, I said 1, plus that's quite common. And so here is the attorney's information screen. The nice thing about this is that this is all filled out for you. I didn't actually type any of this, right? We simply look at your profile and grab everything that's in your profile, which is why, again, you're going to want your bar number in your profile so you don't have to keep typing it each time. The other thing that's going to be populated on the forms is the mailing address. Now, where did this come from? Because we didn't see this in my individual profile. Well, this comes from your law firm's profile. Whoever set up your law firm's AZTurboCourt account, whoever is a company administrator, they manage this information. And we simply pre-populate it here to show it to you. And then the one thing you answer on this page is simply, is this your current mailing address? If it is, great, nothing more to do there. If it isn't, if you happen to work out of a separate office, that's not a problem. You would simply say no, and then provide whatever your current address is. But I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, that's the mailing address that I'm using. Okay. Clicking Next, it just immediately brings me into the second section here, Plaintiffs Information. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you is that you're only going to be providing this information to the court one time. They use this to be able to set up the case in their system, and then that's it. You're not going to need to provide it to them again. And in fact, it's going to expedite your ability to file more documents into this existing case now that all that data is there, because we use that to make it faster and easier for you to be able to file more documents into the case once it exists. Okay, so when you're doing case initiation, you're going to go through these questions, but only one time. Just so you know, when you're doing a subsequent filing into an existing case, you can literally go through this answer the questions portion in 60 seconds. I'm not kidding. That's not like pie in the sky. There's just a couple of clicks and a few questions you answer, and you're done, and then you're already attaching your documents. Okay. But for case initiation, the court needs this information up front, so there are more questions. Okay. So then there is the question of how many plaintiffs. You can list up to 50. To make it more interesting, I said 2. I click Next. And then for each plaintiff, I'm simply indicating their type and their name. That's it. So it's either a business organization agency or an individual. And do note that if they are a DBA, you should still list them as an individual. And then you'll have the ability to put their DBA name on the next screen. Also, if they're an individual, you'll need to indicate whether or not they're a minor or if they've been designated as an incompetent adult, because then the court needs to know the name of the guardian or the parent. All right. And so I said, no, this is just a regular adult individual, and I click Next. And so you'll see a lot of fields on this screen, but notice that these are the only two, the first and last name, that are required. Okay? So if you want to provide the plaintiff's email and telephone or mailing address, you can, but the court doesn't require it. Frankly, I'm going to save myself some time, and I'm going to skip them. Okay? Now, if this person is a DBA, a doing business as, you could indicate that here, and then this field conditionally becomes required which is why you'll sometimes see a gray asterisk. It's conditionally required. So now that I've told the court this person's a DBA, the court says, okay, well, we want to know what that DBA name is, right? Or maybe they're also known as an AKA, in which case I'd have to put that in there. But otherwise, I don't have to select anything, and I can simply provide their first and last name. Very, very fast. Clicking next. Second plaintiff is a business of some sort. And again, just the name. And I did put a DBA in this situation. Okay? But again, the rest of these fields, not required. Great, I'm going to save myself some time and proceed. And I saw that there was a question, another question about case types. I'll come to that in just a little bit. Okay. I click next, and it just automatically brings me into the third section, asking about the defendants. So once again, you can list up to 50. I've listed 2. Go through the same process. First defendant, I've said, is some sort of a business or organization. It's the Anderson Corporation doing business as Anderson Electrical. And I'm going to pause here because this is the first place where there's a deviation in between the way Pima does things and the way the All Other Counties group does things. Okay, so let's just pause right there in this Pima filing. And now I'm going to switch over to a filing that I've set up for Yavapai County. Well, looks like I already expired, so log in again. All right, let me just quickly do this. Okay, so this is going to be great. So this is going to be a case initiating filing, and I selected Yavapai County, which is one of the All Other Counties group, right? So we've got the Pima approach and the All Other Counties approach. And to help you keep track of which approach we're looking at, I'm giving you a visual cue. So let me explain. Let me switch back over to Pima for a second. So now I'm in the Pima filing, which is where we just were. So anytime we're looking at that Pima filing, notice at the top of the screen, I left the URL address bar here, okay? So if you see this URL at the top, that's telling you that we're looking at a Pima filing, okay? And now switching to the other one, no URL bar at the top, it's sort of a clean top. That's the All Other Counties approach, okay? So this is a Yavapai filing, so this is the All Other Counties approach. So as I switch back and forth between screens, and I'll call it out anyway when I switch back and forth as to what we're looking at. But if you start losing track, just know that the clean top is the All Other Counties approach, and the screen with the URL address bar at the top, that's the Pima filing. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to click next through this just to show you. It's just like what we saw for Pima, right? Attorney's information. Is that your mailing address? How many plaintiffs? Great. Individual, Ralph Gleason. It's the second one's a business, Gleason Enterprises. 2 defendants. First one's a business, the Wilson Corporation. And you will see here extra fields that we did not see on the Pima screen. So now I'm going to switch to the Pima screen and show you that when you're initiating a case in Pima and you're providing defendants information, the only fields available to you are their name. That's it. They're not even asking you to provide an email address or a phone number or a mailing address, even if you know it, for the defendant. That's just Pima's way of doing things, okay? But switching back now to the All Other Counties approach, they do give you that ability. Again, that email address and telephone number fields, those are optional. But notice that the mailing address question in the All Other Counties approach is required. You can say unknown, and then you're done. There's nothing more to provide. You can provide their name, say I don't know their mailing address, and move on, okay? But if you do happen to know their address, select, for example, in the USA, and then you'll get a new page where you can provide the address information, okay? So again, this is specific to the All Other Counties approach for case initiation. All right, I click next. My second defendant is an individual. It's Mark Wilson. And yeah, I know his mailing address as well. And so for that second defendant, notice that I have the ability to simply select any other address that I've previously provided. So you don't have to keep typing the address over and over if you've got multiple defendants that happen to share an address. That obviously is going to save you a lot of time. It's also going to alleviate the possibility of you mistyping it the second time. You know, if I were to transpose this to 54 Main Street by mistake, the court maybe it's going to wonder, okay, now are they just down the street from one another? Right? Or is that a mistake? And then you're going to have to deal with that, right? So this alleviates that problem. I can simply select this address. If they happen to have a unique address, I'll just say specified below and provide the unique address. But in this scenario, I'm just going to go ahead and say, no, they're there at that same address, okay? So that's one of the things that's different about the all other counties approach versus the Pima approach. So back to Pima now, switching to Pima. So where we left off, defendant, just the name. Defendant number 2, individual. Again, just their name. When I click next, it takes me to the very last section, which is going to allow us to create that civil cover sheet, calculate fees, and other documents that are needed. Okay. First thing is, are you seeking any emergency orders? For right now, I'm going to say no. I'm going to just leave these unchecked, so there's nothing for me to do here. And I click next. The next question is about the discovery tier level. Now, if you haven't initiated a case in Arizona for a while, this is different from what they used to do. Not that long ago, they had something on the civil cover sheet called complex case designation, and you'd indicate whether or not the case should be designated as complex. And then if so, there you had multiple checkboxes as to indicate why it's complex. Okay, that is done away with. Per this Rule 26.2, they have now moved to something called the discovery tier level. You've got 3 choices. Tier 1, simple cases that can be tried in 1 or 2 days with actions claiming $50,000 or less in damages. Tier 2, intermediate complexity, actions claiming more than $50,000 in damages but less than $300,000. And then your third tier, cases that are logistically or legally complex, actions claiming $300,000 or more. Okay, so you simply choose one of these 3. And then optionally, you can put in a dollar amount for the monetary relief requested. Now, if you were to indicate tier 2 and then say $350,000, for example, we will catch that so that you don't submit it to the court that way and they either reject it. Actually, I don't know what they do. They'd either reject it or they probably ask you to resubmit it, whatever. It's not what you want to be dealing with, right? So again, where we can validate things, we will catch them for you so that you get what I like to call a clean filing into the courts. So I can look at that and say, oh, I should have selected tier 3, or no, I just mistyped that and it should have been, you know, $250,000, for example. Okay. Moving right along. Now I'm going to indicate my case category. Here again, there are differences between Pima's approach and the all other counties approach. Here in Pima, there are 5 top-level categories. I'm going to switch now over to the all other counties approach and come to the category page and notice that there are 6 top-level categories, one of them being real property. Pima doesn't have real property as a case category. So what do you do if you need to initiate a real property case in Pima? Well, let's switch back to Pima. You would select Other. Click Next, and then these subcategory choices include real property. That's in Pima. Okay? So here's the rule of thumb, and I'm going to say this more than once. Just follow along with what's presented to you on screen for the jurisdiction you're filing into, and you shouldn't go wrong. Because as I said, we have precisely mapped to each jurisdiction's rules, requirements, ways of doing business, options, category, case category options, document options, and so forth. Okay? So that's the rule of thumb. Just follow along with what's presented to you on screen, and you shouldn't go wrong for that jurisdiction. All right? So in this Pima filing, I'm going to say it's a contracts case. Then I have my list of subcategories, and again, This subcategory list for a contracts case is a little bit different in Pima than it is in the all other counties group. So this is what Pima has available. So select from one of these. So again, there's no delay in processing or reason to reject your filing. Okay. So I'm going to say construction defects, 20 or more structures. When I click next, because I'm initiating in Pima, we know that they require a Fast Start certificate, and we're going to generate it for you, so you don't need to do that. And so you're simply answering a yes/no question. Is this case subject to Fast Start? Now, you may have noticed also that on some of the screens, there is a question box off to the right. These are frequently asked questions, FAQs. And you can click on any of these FAQs and then see the corresponding response to if it's helpful to you in answering the questions. Okay, so for example, which cases are subject to Fast Start? Then let's go ahead and close that FAQ and make my selection. Okay, so I'll say yes or no. Whatever I say here, when I click next, there's one additional checkbox, and this is for my digital signature for the Fast Start certificate. So I'm simply going to check that box. Notice my name is actually embedded in this statement because this is the statement on that certificate. Okay. Now I'm going to just switch back for a moment to the all other counties filing. So now I'm back in Yavapai, all other counties, contracts case. Again, my 20 or more structures, and it's the exact same process, but it's a different certificate. This is a certificate of compulsory arbitration, different FAQ. What cases are subject to arbitration? Yes or no, and a slightly different statement because it's a different certificate. But nevertheless, my name is embedded. I check the box for that. Okay. Back to Pima now. And there was the question about whether forfeiture cases can be initiated in Pima County. And I don't know the answer to that, so I'm simply going to look at other and see if it's there or not. I don't know that it is. Don't think so. So for that, you'd want to reach out to the clerk's office there in Pima to find out if they're intending to allow you to do that electronically at some point in the future. Because anything that they're going to expand upon for electronic filing, AZTurboCourt will have it. But it's up to them as to if they're going to do it and when they're going to do it. Okay, so it doesn't look like at this point that that's available, unless I'm missing something. Okay. Okay, so there was also a question earlier on about what if the fees are waived. Now, in Arizona at this time, when you are filing into an existing case, so not case initiation, but an existing case, you have the ability to indicate that you have, for example, a court order to waive fees on the entire case or for specific documents. Let's say if you're, an arbitrator or a mediator, you would indicate you're court appointed, right, to file documents into this case. By definition, then fees would not be charged to you. If you've registered, for example, as an exempt government agency, you happen to be an attorney who works for an exempt government agency, and so you didn't register your AZTurboCourt account as a law firm, but instead as an exempt government agency, your fees would automatically be waived. But let's just say you're a law firm, and at this point in time, the way Arizona has implemented e-filing is that there is not the ability to have fees waived on the initiating filing through electronic means. So once you start doing subsequent filings into that existing case, if fee waivers are applicable, then you can indicate that on all the subsequent filings without any problem through AZTurboCourt. But for case initiation, they don't let us give you that option. And so you would, my understanding is, and I would say check with the clerk's office as to how this works. But if it's case initiation and the fees are being collected, if they were going to be returned, then the court would deal with that in whatever way that particular court does that. Okay. So again, that kind of functionality is dependent on what the courts allow us to let you do. And so right now you can waive fees on subsequent filings, but not case initiating filings. So I hope that helps. Okay, so let me just jump forward again to this last page we were on, the Fast Start certificate and my checking the box for my digital signature. And I have one other thing to indicate, which is what my main document is. Now, you've seen me click on individual pages, and I've been using this term, let me jump into this section or jump onto that page. This is navigation that allows you to very quickly do that. So when you're first going through this set of questions, as you've seen, what you do is you answer the question, you click next. You answer the question, you click next. And it just walks you through until you get to that final preview area, okay? But once you've done that, you don't have to, look for the page you're needing to change an answer for. You don't have to hit the previous button a bunch of times or the next button a bunch of times. You can just click on the section you want, for example, defendant information, and you can go right to the page you want and, change whatever you need to or review whatever you need to. If you make any changes, make sure you click next. You could also click save there if you wanted to at this point. But that allows for very fast, easy navigation. Okay. So for example, I don't have to click the next button to get down to here. I can just click on that page and voila, there I am, and I continue from there. Okay. So we all sorts of ways to try to make this as expeditious as possible. Okay. So I finished my Fast Start certificate. I click next, and now I'm indicating for the court what is the main document that I'm using to initiate this case. Now, in Pima and in the All Other Counties group of counties, you're going to be able to attach many documents, what the court refers to as main documents or lead documents, okay? And each of those main documents can have supporting documents. In fact, you're going to see that in just a moment. But the court wants to know what is the #1 main document you want to designate as the one that you're using to initiate this case. Now, your main documents, they're going to get court stamped. It's going to be part of the docket. These are your choices in Pima. And again, this is a slightly different list when you're initiating in the All Other Counties group. And that quick guide, that PDF quick guide that I showed you earlier, it shows you what the document types are available to you when you're initiating in Pima versus the document types that are available to you when you're initiating in one of the All Other Counties group of counties. Okay, so for example, here in Pima, I'm going to initiate with a claim. Switching over to the All Other Counties group, they don't have a claim as an available document type for initiating. So I'm going to initiate with a complaint. Okay. So again, rule of thumb, follow along with what's presented to you on screen for that jurisdiction, and you'll be good to go. Okay. Now, at this point in Pima, we're done. Once I've indicated my one main document, I'm finished with the questions, and now I can proceed to step 2, which is to attach my documents. Okay. But when you're in the All Other Counties group, you've got one other question available to you, one other option. And so I'll click next. And it's asking whether or not you want to ask the court to arrange for an interpreter, and you can do that electronically through this filing. Now, you can ask Pima for interpreters as well. They just don't make that available electronically. Okay? So if, in fact, you do want to ask for an interpreter when you're initiating a case in the All Other Counties group, simply check that box. A new drop-down appears, and here are all the different languages that they're making available to you. Notice that sign language is one of the options, so you could request the court provide somebody to sign for you if you're if your client is hearing impaired, for example. Okay. If it's not applicable, then of course you simply leave that box unchecked and you're done. Okay. So I'm going to switch back over to Pima now, and let's move on to step 2. Before I do that, however, I want to pause and do a little bit of a reality check for you, because I know we just spent a fair bit of time walking through these questions, and that's because I'm talking about different what-if scenarios and comparing between one approach versus another approach, right? Answering a few questions. You're not going to be doing any of that when you yourself are actually creating and initiating filing. And so even though the court needs this information up front, and again, you're only providing it once, but they do need this information, I want to show you that it's actually, even for case initiation, something you'll be able to do quickly. And so for a reality check, let's just walk through from the beginning without all the what-if scenarios and the county comparison, so you get some sense of what that's going to be like. So I'm going to go right back to the very, very beginning. Right, I'm in Arizona. I said I want to do a general civil filing. Great. Where do you need to file? I select my location. Okay. Starting a new case. Click. Great. All right, let's proceed. How many attorneys? Select whatever that is. My information is pre-populated, and I'm simply answering a yes/no question. Okay. Click next. Now, if there's additional attorneys, then of course I'll provide that information. Number of plaintiffs, whatever that is. And then for each plaintiff, it's simply what's their type and what's their name. I'm going to skip the rest. The court says they don't require it at this point. Fine. Let me just save myself some time. I'm just going to provide the name. Next, type, business, their name. Okay. Clicking next. Okay, now I've got a couple defendants, their type, their name. Now, and remember, if you're in the All Other Counties group, if you're initiating in the All Other Counties group, you will have the mailing address question for the defendant that you have to answer. And you can say unknown. That's okay. If you know it and you want to provide it, you're welcome to do so. Next defendant, typing in their name. If you're providing addresses and they're the same address, you can reuse a previously provided address to save yourself time. Or again, you can just say unknown. Okay. Nothing happening here. I simply click next. Select my tier, optionally provide a dollar amount. Select one option here. Select the subcategory. Indicate yes or no, whether it's FASTAR or the Certificate of Compulsory Arbitration for the All Other Counties group. It's a simple yes/no question. Check the box for my digital signature and select my main document. And again, in the All Other Counties group, if I want to request an interpreter, I can do that. That's it. So even for case initiating questions, you're going to be able to go through this quite quickly. Okay, let's proceed with the next step. Actually, I want to show you another set of variations, because on that emergency order screen, there is other functionality that AZTurboCourt provides to you. So let's switch over now to the All Other Counties group. So here we are, no URL at the top. So this is the Yavapai filing, All Other Counties filing. And I'm going to go back to that emergency order page. And here I'm indicating, yeah, I want a provisional remedy and an order to show cause. Once again, there's different rules and requirements because I've said that. AZTurboCourt knows what those are, and we'll make sure you follow them. So once again, we alleviate the likelihood of rejection, and we alleviate delays in the court processing your filing. Okay? So let me show you what happens, for example, when I were to indicate these two choices. Here, when I click next, instead of going directly to the discovery tier level, which is what we saw previously, I get some new questions because I'm wanting a provisional remedy. AZTurboCourt's actually going to create this document for you. Okay? So, which one do you need? Provisional remedy with notice or without? And again, we've got frequently asked questions that provide additional information if you're wanting to look at that to decide. Also, sometimes you'll see the words or phrases linked here. that simply takes you to those same FAQs. It just opens them up, the same ones, just right from here. Okay. Now, so you're indicating whether you want it with or without notice. And here in the All Other Counties group, you also have a couple of checkboxes, which is where you can tell the court that I'm also going to be providing you with the following documents: an application for that provisional remedy and/or an affidavit in support of that provisional remedy. Now, this is optional. There's no asterisk here, so you don't have to provide either of these. But if you want to, you can, one or both or either. Okay. And just put a pin there for a moment. I'm going to show you how Pima does this. So now I'm going to say provisional remedy in Pima. They ask the same question: do you want a provisional remedy with or without notice? But there's no additional checkboxes. Okay? And the reason being, back to Yavapai here, is that if I select, for example, this affidavit in support of the provisional remedy, I'm filing into Yavapai, and I say I want this provisional remedy, and I'm also going to be providing an affidavit in support of it. Great. When you do that, you'll see in just a moment that AZTurboCourt is going to create a placeholder for this document, and you're now then going to be required to include it. So if you're telling the court, I want this provisional notice of provisional remedy, and I'm going to be providing you an affidavit in support of it, they want it right away. They don't want to wait for it in a separate filing. So by telling them I'm providing that now, you're going to have to provide it. With Pima, you can still include this affidavit in support of your provisional remedy with your initiating filing. They're simply not asking you up front whether or not you're going to do that. Okay, so again, just different approaches to where the different counties want to do business, if you will, or have AZTurboCourt, interact with you. Okay? All right, so provisional remedy with notice, and I'm going to provide an affidavit in support of it. Great. I click next, and I get one additional screen with some required questions. And this is the information that we need in order to create this document for you. So we will provide the names of all of the plaintiffs and all of the defendants, and you simply check who should or should not be listed on this notice of provisional remedy. Okay? Then you've got dollar amount fields. Some are required, others are optional, so you just provide the dollar amount fields as needed. Property description is required. You've got up to 3 lines to describe it, and you're good to go. Go ahead and click next, and that's it. Okay? So that was for the provisional remedy. For the order to show cause, I'll show you where that comes into play right now. So I'm going to jump to the end of the interview here. The interpreter question was the last one we saw. When I click next, AZTurboCourt is going to analyze all of my answers. And here's what it just did. It calculated my fees based on what it is that I'm filing for that particular jurisdiction. Okay? It generated all of these forms for you. And it also established placeholders for me to attach my documents. These are the ones that, with this asterisk, that are required for me to complete my filing. So where you stand right now in terms of this filing or this form set is that its status, as you see here at the top, is called completed. So let me talk about the statuses now. I mentioned earlier about the 3-step approach to creating and submitting your filing, right? Answer some questions, step 1. Step 2, attach your documents, which is what we're about to do. And then step 3, electronically submit everything with fees as needed. Okay. Once you've answered all the questions, there's no more questions to answer, that form set, that filing, is called completed. That tells you no more questions need to be answered. If you got pulled away from your desk and you didn't finish it, the status will show as incomplete. Makes sense, right? Now, once you've attached your documents and electronically submitted your filing to the court and they've received it, the status will change from completed to delivered. When you see delivered, that means they were able to successfully consume your filing. They got all the documents, all the data, any fees, whatever they needed. It all made it through to them cleanly, and the clerks can now process it. Then, once the clerks, assuming they accept your filing, Once they accept it, it will change from delivered to e-filed, and that's ultimately what you're looking for, right? So typically, you're going to go from completed to delivered to e-filed, okay? You have a unique form set number right now. So it's not a case number, but it is a way to track this filing until there is a case number, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the forms very quickly that AZTurboCourt just generated for you. You've got your civil cover sheet. Click the view link, and what you're going to see is these are all PDFs. Disregard this keyword matter number right now. I will show that to you in just a moment. So here's your filing. It's all filled out. You've got 20 or more structures, second tier, dollar amount. I want a provisional remedy and in order to show cause. And we even create an additional attachment page that is still part of the same PDF. It's all one document that the court's going to get, but this is going to show any additional attorney filing information as well as a list of all the main documents that are being included here. Okay, so that's the civil cover sheet that just got generated for you. Okay, because I'm filing in Yavapai, which is part of the All Other Counties group, they require a certificate of compulsory arbitration. Again, if this was Pima, it would be the fast star, but let me show you that certificate of compulsory arbitration. Okay, there it is. And whether you said yes or no, the language here will be slightly different, but you can say here it says it is subject versus is not. Here is my digital signature. In Arizona, they use the /S/ to indicate a digital signature for electronic filing. By the way, if you're ever creating your own documents that need to be signed and you're typing in your name, make sure you put in /S/, otherwise the court will reject that document or that filing, okay? All right, so there's your certificate generated for you. I have 2 defendants, 2 summonses got generated for me. Great. First summons is against the Wilson Corporation. Second summons is probably for the individual, should be, yeah, Mark Wilson. And then lastly, I said I wanted that notice of provisional remedy. There it is. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so whichever defendants I left checked, Wilson Corporation, Mark Wilson, same thing with the plaintiffs, the details for the property description, and then the different dollar amounts that I put in there. Okay, this is actually a 3-page document that we just generated. Now, if you read through that and you realize you want to make some changes, you want to change the description of the property or some dollar amounts, not a problem. I'm just going to go ahead and close this document. Notice that prior to you submitting this to the court, you can always click Review and Edit Your Answers. So I'm going to click that. It's going to bring me right back into that interview. And like I said, you've got quick and easy navigation to find what you're looking for. I want to change the dollar amounts on that provisional remedy. So I'm going to just click on Section 4, and I'm going to go right to the information page on that provisional remedy. And I want to change this to $9,200. And I'm going to give myself another $100. Thank you very much. Raise that to $500. Remember to click Next or Save. Okay, I'm good to go. So now I'm just going to jump right back into the preview by clicking on that preview link. AZTurboCourt is going to regenerate everything based on any changes I just made. And now when I look at my notice of provisional remedy, it's simply been recreated with whatever changes I made. So those are all the documents that it generated for me in this particular filing. And again, the notice of provisional remedy is there because on the emergency order screen, I said I wanted one of those. Okay? Now, I indicated that I was filing a complaint and I wanted an order to show cause as well as an affidavit in support of my provisional remedy. So you'll see the asterisk indicates I must attach these documents. So let's take a look at attaching your documents now. All right, so for the complaint, you'll see there's an attach link. I simply click on it. So we already know it's a complaint type. And for your title or description, you can provide a meaningful, lengthy title or description for the document. Here, again, there's a variance in the number of characters that you can put in your title or description. So in Pima and in the all other counties group of counties, the maximum length of characters for a document title or description is 100 characters. So they actually share the same number, 100 characters. I'm just going to mention Maricopa, even though you can't initiate in Maricopa yet, but you can, of course, file it into existing cases in Maricopa. Just so you know, when you're filing into Maricopa through AZTurboCourt, the maximum title description length is 255 characters, a really long title. And again, those details are included in that PDF quick guide. So do make sure you print a copy of that for yourselves. Okay, so you're going to want to provide some sort of a meaningful title or description. For the sake of brevity, I'm just going to call this My Complaint. That's a very bad title. Don't use that. And then I'm going to choose my file by clicking Choose File. And there's my complaint. And there it is. And you're going to want to take note of this. This is going to show you when you're attaching your document what file types are the court is allowing for this particular document. Now, when you're filing into General Civil in Arizona, more often than not, these are your three choices: PDF, DocX, and ODT. But there are some times, and I'll show you that in just a moment, when it's more restricted than that, okay? So you are going to want to keep an eye on this as to making sure that the document type that you have matches this, okay? So I've attached complaint.pdf. I simply click Save. AZTurboCourt processes that to make sure it's a valid file type. Because if you have, let's say, a WordPerfect document, and you simply rename it .docx, we're going to reject that. And the reason we're going to reject it is because we know the court's not going to be able to consume it, and then they're going to reject your entire filing, right? Which is what we're trying to help you to avoid. So we'll make sure up front that you're attaching things that the court is going to be able to consume. So, okay, so there's my document, which I called My Complaint. If I want to view it, the one that I just attached, I can click that View link. Just make sure I attach the right version. If I need to make any changes, I can click what used to say Attach. It now says Edit. So I click on that, which allows me to change that title or description. Or let's just say I had viewed it after attaching it and realized I attached an earlier version, the wrong one, and I need to change it. So I simply click Edit, and I can choose a file again, and we'll simply replace this previous file with your newly selected file. We'll just swap it out for you, okay? All right. If for some reason you realize that you need to change your document, you've already attached it, but you now, after the fact, before you've submitted it to the court, somebody, within the office comes to you and says, oh, we need to make some changes to this. All right, so I'm going to make some changes, and then I'm going to swap it out, right? If you ever find yourself in that situation where you've already attached the document and you're going to need to change it, and you don't already have the new version ready, I highly, highly, highly recommend you immediately remove it. Because if you forget that you didn't swap it out in your busy day, and then you submit it, that's just going to cause you all sorts of headaches, right? So don't do that to yourself. If you know it needs to be replaced, remove it, and you're not going to be able to submit the filing until you put the proper version in there. Just a suggestion. Okay, now let's talk about supporting documents. So each of these main documents, and you'll notice that the main documents are sort of at the far left, and the supporting documents are sort of connected and indented. So each main document can have supporting documents. In fact, they can have up to 25 supporting documents, okay? And so I'm going to go ahead and attach a supporting document to this complaint. And here's a very, very important area where the counties differ in terms of what you can and cannot attach as a supporting document. So please pay attention to this part. It's very important. It's even more important when you're filing into more documents into an existing case. But even for case initiation, it's important that you know this. All right, so here I am in Yavapai. I'm in the All Other Counties group, right? So let me show you what you do for supporting documents in the All Other Counties group. All right, so I'm going to click Attach to attach a supporting document to my complaint. We know that you're attaching it as a supporting document to your complaint, so you're good to go there. Your document type, what are your choices in the All Other Counties group? Well, you can say I'm attaching a generic supporting document, an exhibit, an attachment, something. Or it may be a proposed hearing, a proposed notice of judgment, or a proposed order. Okay, those are my options. And so I could say I'm attaching just a generic supporting document, and my first supporting doc, again, bad name, please put something more meaningful there. And I'll click Choose File, and I've just got an exhibit here, click Save, and so there we go, my first supporting document, and you can see it's connected and attached, and the court will see it this way as well. And now I've got up to 24 more that I can attach, okay? So those are my options for attaching a supporting document in the All Other Counties group, a generic supporting document or these proposed document types, okay? Now I'm going to switch us over to Pima. All right, so let's just jump ahead here. This is my Pima filing, right? So it's completed, the different number, different fees. This is my cover sheet, a fast star, right? Instead of the certificate of compulsory arbitration, a couple of summonses, no provisional remedy, I didn't ask for it, right? Nothing about an order to show cause, I didn't ask for it. So I actually I'm required in this filing, which is very common actually, for case initiation, the only required document is my claim, right? So let me just go ahead and quickly do that. My claim, choose my file, make sure it's a good PDF, there we go. All right, so same process, 25 supporting documents, I click Attach. It knows I'm attaching it to my claim, but notice that for the document type, there's only one choice available to me, a generic supporting document. So what happens if I need to attach a proposed order, proposed notice of hearing, or proposed judgment in my initiating case? Well, I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and attach this. I'll just call it that. Okay. So I cannot attach a proposed order, a proposed notice of hearing, or a proposed judgment as a supporting document. Notice we even tell you that right here. Restrict to 100 characters, and supporting documents and proposed orders will not be file stamped. It's telling you that. Okay. Pima does things a little differently than the All Other Counties group. So if you want to attach a proposed order, proposed judgment, and so forth, you can do that in your initiating case, but you do that in the additional documents area. So you can attach up to 5 more main documents. So I've got my main document here, which I identified as my claim, but I can attach up to 5 more. And in Pima, here are my choices for additional documents. And that's where you'll see these proposed document types. They also have another type of a fast start certificate. Okay? So you could go ahead and do that, and it would then appear in your additional documents area. Okay? So that's a really important difference between Pima and the All Other Counties approach. So now I'm going to go back to Yavapai and that All Other Counties approach, because they also have this additional documents area where you can attach up to 5 more documents. But since you don't need to use this area for your proposed orders and proposed judgments, right, because that's allowed as a supporting document, you have other document types that you can use. So for example, I could say I'm also filing a notice, a generic notice or a notice of hearing, or maybe some sort of a petition. Okay, so you've got different document categories, different document types, and there you go. So They both allow you to attach up to 5 more main documents, but what's available to you is different. Okay? And the key there is that distinction between proposed orders, proposed document types, and whether or not you can attach them as a supporting document or they must be an additional main document. Okay, let's move on to this order to show cause. In my questionnaire on the emergency order page in Yavapai, I said I need an order to show cause. We know that they then require that you file a petition for that as well as your proposed order, hence the required placeholders. Now, I've gone ahead and already attached those to save us some time, but I do want to show you something that's very important when you're attaching a proposed order, okay? And this is true for all of the counties. I'm going to go ahead and click Edit on this proposed order. So it's already there. But notice that for the allowed file types, PDF is not listed. PDF is a static document type. Which means that if you're providing a proposed order as a PDF, and in all likelihood it's non-editable, then that means the judge wouldn't be able to make any changes to it. Now, I know that's what you want, but it's just not the way the courts work. So when you're providing a proposed order, they want it to be in an editable document format in case the judge wants to make changes to it. Okay? So that's, again, very important for you to be aware of that. No PDFs for proposed orders. Okay. I also said for that provisional remedy that I was going to be providing an affidavit in support of it, hence the required placeholder, and I've gone ahead and already attached it. And again, notice every single main document can have its own supporting documents. All right, once you've attached all of your documents, then you're simply providing your first and last name for your digital signature. By submitting everything, you are agreeing to these terms and conditions listed here at the bottom. You can click on that and read all the terms and conditions. Okay? But at this point, if I were to click Submit, which I will do very shortly, but if I were to click Submit, assuming everything is here and a payment is required, it will then take me to make my payment. And I will show you that in just a moment. However, there are a couple of other things that I want to bring to your attention that may be helpful to you. All right, so you will notice that there are a number of buttons here at the top of this screen, and I want to bring your attention to the first 2 buttons. So the notifications button, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. When you click on the notifications button, it has 2 areas, an email preferences section and a courtesy notification section. All right, so what's happening here is we are showing you your current default setting in your profile as to whether or not you want to receive email notifications. And again, you may have selected no emails at all, and as I said, that's perfectly fine, even in those scenarios where you know, maybe the filing didn't go through or whatever. You may be somebody who's really on top of it and really is like looking and noticing, and you really don't want extra emails, and that's, like I said, that actually is fine. But let's just pretend that this is your situation. You know, your default setting is no extra emails. Thank you very much. And it is Friday afternoon, and you're initiating a case, and this is a brand new client, and then you're going on vacation, and you really are not going to be checking your TurboCourt, you know, logging into TurboCourt. So just for this one initiating filing, you say, okay, just for this one filing, go ahead and notify me by email as to what's going on with it. So you can override your default setting in your profile just for this one filing. Okay? So that's available to you. The other thing that you can do here is you can send those same status updates as to what's going on with just this one particular filing to other people. So what if you are going on vacation? You could make sure that co-counsel gets these notifications, or your paralegal or legal assistant or your boss or whomever, right? Or you can send it to several people so that they too get these emails that say what's going on with this particular filing and only this filing, okay? And if you want to, you can provide an email address. You can provide several email addresses, just separate them with a comma, and then they too will get the status updates via email for this one particular filing, okay? So that's all available to you. And whatever you do on this screen, just make sure you click Save. All right. So that's the Notifications button. And then this other button is the Keyword Matter Number field. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I actually already put something in there. Let's remove it. The Keyword Matter Number field is optional, but it's very helpful. Now, this has nothing to do with the courts at all. This is only for your own internal purposes. But this is a field that will allow you to put in anything you want, basically, to track your filings, to track your cases, to track what you're doing for your clients, however you want to use this. So if you use a client ID system, right, you can put your client ID into this field, and it will forever be associated with this filing, so that down the road you can say, well, show me everything I filed on behalf of this particular client in the last month or in the last quarter or all of last year, right? Something like that. Maybe you use a case identification system and you name your cases or you give them IDs in a certain way. You could put that in here. Really, you could put just about anything in here. It's alphanumeric, special characters, multiple words, special characters, whatever you're needing, okay? Whatever your system is. And then it's forever associated with this particular filing, and then later on you can track it, you can do searches for it, and so forth. So I'm going to pretend that our firm uses a client ID system, and this particular filing is for my client A-23456. I click Save, and there it is. Okay? If I mistyped it, no problem. I can always just click that button again and edit it. And I can do this at any time. Like, let's just say I forgot to put the keyword matter number in and I already submitted it successfully to the court. That's okay, because I can add or edit this keyword matter number at any time. In fact, even after the court accepts and processes my filing and it's already been e-filed, I can still add the keyword matter number after the fact, because again, it has nothing to do with the court. It's only for our own internal tracking purposes. Okay? And as I said, it's not required, but as a matter of company policy, your firm may decide that they want you to put in a keyword matter number on every single filing. Okay, so that's why I wanted to show that to you. Okay, let's go ahead and submit this filing. And actually, I think I'm going to submit the Pima filing to show you the payments. We are here. Good. Okay, I'm going to do it here. So here's my claim, my name, and I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. Everything's good to go. It will take me to the payment processor. And it did. Great. All right. In Arizona, for these filings, they use a company called AZTurboCourt. We're connected right now live with AZTurboCourt. This is their testing environment as well, but it really is live, so it's very similar to what you will encounter in production. It's going to show you where you're filing. It's going to show you a breakdown of the fees. It's going to show you your form set number. Okay? And then it's going to give you the ability to provide your payment information. And you can see you've got choices of a credit card or a checking or savings account. So let's just say I selected checking savings account. I'm going to provide the routing number of that account, my account number. These are the the account types that AZTurboCourt makes available to you. Checking, savings, corporate, which is, you can think of it as corporate checking or corporate savings, whatever that might be. Optionally, you could provide a check number. And then you're going to provide the name on that bank account. Now, it's either going to be a bank account under an organization's name or a person's first and last name. Maybe it's your checking account, right? In which case, you'd go ahead and provide your name and then whatever the rest of the billing information is for that bank account. Now, if this is your bank account, for example, save yourself some time, click on the Same as Filer's Information checkbox, and AZTurboCourt will grab your information from AZTurboCourt and pre-populate it. Now, if it's slightly different on your checking account, obviously you can edit it accordingly, but all of your information is pre-populated, and that saves you some time if this happens to be your account. Okay? Similarly, if you're using a credit card, go through that same process, select your card type, provide a card number, and they've actually given me some credit card numbers to play around with. I don't know if this is still valid and will work, but let's give it a shot. Hopefully it will. And my security code and my expiration date. Okay. And I've got my billing information, and at that point, I'm going to scroll down and click Submit. Now, if that payment is not valid, if EnCourt says, no, that's not a good credit card or whatever, then it's going to leave me here. You'll see that in a moment if that happens, and it'll give me a warning that that payment didn't go through. If it does go through, then it will automatically return me to AZTurboCourt. So I'm going to cross my fingers and click Submit Payment and see what happens. Oh, excellent. It's the little things in life. Okay. Please wait. We are verifying your payment. So we'll let it do its thing. So this is really happening live right now. EnCourt and AZTurboCourt are talking to one another and exchanging information back and forth. So we'll just let it do its thing. There you go. Okay. Status is now delivered. That means not only did the payment go through, but I just sent this filing to Pima. No kidding, I really did just do that. And Pima just sent me back verification that they were able to successfully consume everything, and I could call a clerk right now and say, can you find my file, form set 39973, and it'll be right there for them. It's instantaneous. So when you see delivered, you're good to go. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Here we're going to show you the payment transaction number that EnCourt generated for you, a unique number. They're going to show you how you made your payment. You can click View Payment Receipt with lots of helpful information here, right? The jurisdiction, your form set number, no case number yet. Oops, I didn't put a keyword matter number in. Not a problem. I can do that after the fact. Other details, payment information, breakdown of the fees, and I can print a hard copy of this receipt if I want, or I could click this same link and simply save it as a PDF, and now I can save a digital copy of this receipt, to my hard drive or to my network drive, wherever I need to. Okay? All right. Now the question is, do I want to save that payment information for future AZTurboCourt payments? If I don't want to, I don't have to do anything. I can say, don't save it, just go to my form set. If I do want to save it to save myself some time, then I would provide a nickname for that credit card. And let me just explain what's happening in terms of the interaction between EnCourt and AZTurboCourt. EnCourt is where all of your financial information is securely stored. So, if you did this with a checking account, for example, we don't know your bank routing number. We don't know your bank account number, right? We don't know your credit card number. We've got the last 4 digits in the expiration, but we don't know anything else about that credit card. EnCourt has all of that securely stored, and what they pass to us is sort of an underlying key code that makes absolutely no sense to us. It's a meaningless key code. But if you want to save this payment method, this credit card or checking account for future use, you give it a nickname. So I'm going to call this my April 2019 MasterCard, and just to help me remember, it's an 11/21 expiration date. You wouldn't normally put like important, meaningful information in the nickname, but I just do that for tracking purposes. Okay. And in fact, I'm going to give the last 4 digits as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that just helps me. All right. So I'm going to click Save and View Form Set. So here are all of the documents that just got sent to Pima. Notice I've got a Messages tab for this filing. When I click on it, here we go. Thank you for submitting your documents to Pima. You'll be notified when they're in process, and it looks like they give you some helpful phone numbers for support. Great. I'll mark that as read. I have no idea what this one is. This was actually an earlier notification from yesterday. I was working on this filing and I didn't finish it. Wow, I didn't even know they did this. was left unfinished. Awesome. That's great. Okay, so at this point I'm done. I'm waiting for the court to process my filing, hopefully accept it. And the moment the clerk accepts my filing, the status will change from delivered to e-filed. Okay? I'll show you what happens when that happens in just a moment. You'll notice also there's a Your Payments tab here. So once again, access to the transaction, and I can always access that payment receipt by clicking on that payment details link. I'm right back there again. Okay? So the Payments tab, the Messages tab, and then my filing details, which is the main screen here. So there you go. Congratulations. We just successfully filed an initiating filing in Pima. Now let me show you what happens when the court accepts your filing. So not only does the status go from delivered to e-filed, and not only will you be notified that it was successfully e-filed, but you're also then going to get access to the conformed stamped copies that the court creates, as well as other case documents. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and log out as this person. I'm going to log in as somebody else so I can show you all the different variations, because with each of the unique approaches to how the different courts do things, it also impacts how and when they make the conformed stamped copies available to you. Okay? So hopefully that'll work. Great. So here's a search screen that's going to allow me to search for any of my filings. I'll cover this in detail in a few moments. I'm looking for a particular filing that I'm aware of, and there it is. Okay, so this first one I'm going to show you is a Pima filing that's already been accepted. It's already e-filed. Okay, and so as I've been talking about three approaches, right? The Maricopa approach, the Pima approach, the all other counties approach. Well, it's also it also makes a difference in terms of when and how they give you access to the conformed stamped copies once they've accepted your filing. So let's look at each of these. So here, we're going to first look at a Pima filing, because that's like the one that I just did. When you successfully e-file into Pima, which means it went from status delivered to e-filed, you're going to now see additional links next to the view links. So before it was just a view link, now you've got some court copy links, an endorsed link, and when I click on any of these, it's actually going to bring me up Pima's version of this document and their conformed version of it, the stamped version of it, which I can then print or save to my hard drive, whatever I need to do. Now, the courts don't stamp every single document. So, for example, supporting documents, they don't typically stamp. There's other types of documents they won't stamp. But typically, these main documents, they stamp. And for example, here in Pima, it looks like they do two different types of stamping. Whatever they do, we're going to show it to you and give you access to it. Okay? So I'm going to give this a try. I don't know if this actually, if Pima's, their document management system is connected right now, but let's just try it. I'm going to click Court Copy for this certificate of compulsory arbitration. And so now I'm actually reaching out to Pima's system and saying, please give me your conformed copy of this particular document in my filing. So let's just give Pima's system a moment to do that. Hopefully it's up and running. Looks good. Okay, there we go. Now this isn't a real filing, of course, but here's my conformed stamped copy from Pima, and I can print this. I can save it to my network drive, my hard drive, whatever it is that I need to do. Okay. So this is how you would access the conformed stamped copies in this filing when it's a Pima filing. Okay. Now, I'm just going to very quickly show you Maricopa, even though, again, in Maricopa, you can't initiate. But in case you do subsequent filings into Maricopa, I'll just very quickly show you how they do it. So in Maricopa, they just have the view links. They don't add extra links here, or we don't do it for them. But instead, what they have us do is we add an additional section called stamped documents. And if you click on the view link of a document inside the stamped document section, that's going to give you the conformed stamped copy from Maricopa. So that's how they do it. All right, and then lastly, and importantly, because it's case initiation, let me show you the all other counties approach. All right, so this is a Santa Cruz filing, but that's part of the all other counties group. Okay, so we're looking at an initiating filing, or some sort of filing. It's not initiating, but it doesn't matter. A filing successfully e-filed in Santa Cruz County, part of the all other counties group. You'll notice you just have the view links, no additional links here, no new section called stamped documents. So where do you access the conformed copies from a county within the all other counties group? Where you access them from is this button, View Court Case Documents. And what actually happens when you click on that button is that not only is it going to give you access to the conformed stamped copies of this filing, it's actually going to give you the electronic docket from that court on this case. So not just these documents, but anything that the court has in their electronic docket. I'm going to go ahead and click on it and see if they're connected, because now I'm going to a different system. And I'm asking Santa Cruz to, there you go, give me their electronic docket. Now again, it's not a real case, it's not a full docket, but you can imagine that this would be their electronic docket on this case. And then, of course, any of these documents that are stamped, when I click on them, I'll have the conformed stamped copy from that court. Okay, so that's how you access the conformed stamped copies in the all other counties group. This filing details button here in the top right, I'll click on that. That's just going to bring me back to where I just came from. So this View Court Case Document button only appears once this particular filing has moved to status e-filed. So for example, if I was looking at this filing when it was still in status delivered, this button would not be there. But as soon as it goes to e-filed, this button instantaneously appears, and you'll immediately gain access to the electronic docket, assuming the court makes it available to you. Okay? This is also true in Pima and Maricopa, by the way. So for example, even though Pima, let me just go back to that Pima filing I had shown you. So even though Pima, I can just quickly access the conformed copies of this particular filing here, notice they also have the View Court Case Documents button. And I can ask for the electronic docket on their case here, okay? And Maricopa does as well, okay? They all do that. The question then is, when do they make the conformed stamped copies available to you? Because there's processing time that has to happen for them behind the scenes. When you're filing into the all other counties group of counties, they do overnight processing. So let's say that the clerk accepted the filing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, there's overnight processing that happens behind the scenes, and so the conformed stamped copies should be available to you the very next day. Okay? Pima and Maricopa, their systems process more readily. They actually process every hour. So in theory, when the clerk accepts that filing at 2 o'clock and then does whatever else they need to do, for their own internal systems to make this stuff available to you, your conformed stamped copies could be available an hour later at 3 o'clock. Now I say could be because there are, from what I've learned, there are additional steps that the clerks have to take in addition to just accepting the filing that you've presented. They then have other steps that they need to take before it'll actually get processed fully through their system. And so if the clerk accepts it at 2, but they don't finish the other processing steps until that night or the next morning, whenever that happens, we will run their process, and an hour later the documents will be available to you. But we don't actually have any control, of course, over whatever those other steps are that they need to take. Okay, but just so you know, the all other counties group, they do overnight processing. Pima and Maricopa, it's every hour. Okay, so there you go. And I'm now going to log out as that person and log back in as the person who actually was creating those filings that I showed you. I want to show you. Okay. So here is the filing that I had just electronically delivered just a little while ago. Right? And notice I forgot to include the keyword matter number. Again, it's not a problem. I can add that at any time. And now it's there. Okay? So just to give you a heads up about that. Okay. Let's talk about and look at how you can create initiating filings faster. Because, like I said, even though you only need to do it once, fill out that information, we know, you folks are busy, right? And the court requires this. Okay, so we do it in such a way that is as efficient as possible, that we put in all the safeguards to hopefully allow you to give them a clean copy, a clean filing, so that they don't have a reason to reject it or delay the processing of it. But we know if there was a way to speed that up, you would appreciate that. And so we've developed some functionality for just that purpose. There are a couple different scenarios where you could make use of this functionality that we've created. So let me talk about two potential situations, and then I'll quickly demonstrate it to you. Let's say you have a client who is bringing lots of claims, complaints, lawsuits, whatever it happens to be, against many, many different entities, but the nature of the complaint is essentially the same, right? People that haven't been paying their bills, right? I'm suing lots of different people who haven't been paying their bills. Or, in the case of evictions, I have to do a lot of evictions. Or just something where the nature of the claim itself is common, and really what's changing is who the defendant is and a couple of details, right? So rather than creating a filing like that from scratch each and every time, why not take one of your initiating filings that you did on behalf of your client against one defendant and copy it and reuse most of that data for the next person they need to sue based, for essentially the same thing, right? Because most of the data, as I said, is going to be the same. You change the name of the defendant, maybe a detail or two, but the rest of it's all the same. So rather than starting it from scratch, just reuse it from another filing and then just change what you need to. So that would be one scenario. Another scenario might be where you're basically let's see, who the plaintiff is varies, but the other data remains the same. Okay, the other details of the nature of your filing types remains the same. So where you're needing to change the plaintiff, maybe the defendant, but other details remain the same. I guess the point is that you probably have, if you think about not obviously the documents that you're creating, not the complaint itself, but the data of the case, those questions that you're answering in this interview, you probably may have a lot of filings, initiating filings, that have a lot of commonality. So let's take advantage of that. And let me just demonstrate like one example of that. Okay, so I'm going to find a filing that I've already created, and let me walk you through this scenario. Okay, this will work. All right, great. So now this situation may not be applicable to you, but think about the nature of the filings that you do, and see how you can use this functionality to save yourself a lot of time. And this is particularly so for case initiation. All right, so let's say I represent, my firm represents Anderson Construction, a very large construction company. And they've been working on a project that's been going on for 18 months. They're creating hundreds and hundreds of housing units. They're working with lots of different subcontractors. The project has been going horribly wrong. Several of the subcontractors have been screwing up. and my client now needs to sue them, right? The roofers screwed up, the landscapers screwed up, the paving people screwed up, the electrical folks screwed up, right? It's like, man, it's going wrong. Well, I've got to sue 5 or 6 different entities on behalf of my client. I don't want to start and 5 or 6 initiating filings from scratch if I don't have to, and I don't have to. I'm just going to create one initiating filing against one of those defendants, and then I'm going to copy it and reuse it for all of the others and save myself a lot of time. And let me show you exactly how this works. And so the answer, so that was a question, right? Do you have to be in the form set you want to copy? Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm actually going to show you that right now. So basically find a filing that is similar to the one that you want to create another filing from. So in this situation, I created a filing which was my client Anderson Construction against one of the subcontractors, the folks that did all the windows for this housing development. Notice right now that the status of this filing is simply completed. It could be delivered, it could be e-filed, but it doesn't have to be. What I'm essentially looking for is a finished questionnaire, right? I've answered all the questions because that's what I'm copying is the data from the questions. I'm not copying documents because you're not going to be able to use the same complaint, right? It's a whole different thing, right? So we're not copying the documents that you yourself have attached. We're copying the data that you answered in the questionnaire. So you don't have to answer all those questions again, right? So let's go into this one filing here. I'll click on that form set. It's ready to go. I've got a cover sheet, I've got a certificate, I've got a summons against the one defendant, it's got a placeholder for the complaint, but this is what I'm most interested in, the data that led to all of these documents from my interview, okay? So this is the one I want to use. And you'll notice one of the other buttons at the top of the screen says copy for new form set. Go ahead and click on that. Now this describes what's going to happen, but really all you need to do is click submit. I've already got a brand new form set number in the works. Current status is incomplete. Just kind of pay attention here. So I just click submit and then complete your filing. Now watch what happens. It already knows where I'm filing. It knows I'm starting a new case. Whoever the attorneys are, whether it is one or several, that's likely not going to be changing, right? We're representing the Anderson Construction Company. Who the attorneys are probably is not changing, right? Who the plaintiff is, that's not changing. And let me just go back here for a second. I just want to walk you through this again. Boom, boom, boom. Here I am. I'm going to skip everything. I'm skipping the getting started section. I'm about the attorneys. I'm skipping the plaintiff section, right? I'm going to go to the defendant section. I'm going to go to their information screen, and I'm changing a name. Okay, whatever that might be, right? Click next to save it. In this area, chances are the only thing you might change is the discovery tier level, right? If you weren't seeking emergency orders against the Windows company, you're probably not seeking them against the landscaper, right? The category is likely going to be the same, contracts, 20 or more structures, or whatever it happens to be. Is it subject to FASTR? Yes, well, it probably is here too. Am I filing a complaint? Well, I'm filing a complaint there too. So even in this section, I'm probably skipping everything except potentially the dollar amount, right? Right. So for this one, it wound up being, we're suing them for more. So I may change that, maybe, right? Click next to save it. That's it. I'm done. All I did was I changed the name of the defendant and the discovery tier level. I'm going to jump into the preview section, and voila, I've got an entirely brand new case initiating form set ready for my complaint in a couple of clicks. It is definitely the way to go. So play around with copy for new form set. Look for ways to be able to use any of your existing initiating filings to create new ones. It will save you a lot of time, okay? All right, so that's copy for new form set. Now let me wrap with a couple of other important areas for you to be aware of. Managing your workload, searching for your filings, and then also accessing the financial reports and things like that. And then we will be able to wrap. Okay, so when you are on your home page, when you first log in, you're on your home page, you see your 5 most recent filings, you'll see this list all link. You can click on that. That will take you to the search screen, which will allow you to access any of your filings. Also in your user menu, you'll see something called My Forms. Again, we use these terms synonymously. So My Forms, My Form Sets, My Filings, they're all one and the same thing. And if I were to click on that, it brings me to this search screen you have seen me using. Okay? So I could, for example, put in a date range. I'm looking for filings within a particular date range. That would be one way of doing it. Now, there are limitations, like in terms of if you're not using any other search criteria, you can't simply search for all filings in the last year, because that could potentially be thousands of filings and it would completely slow up your system. So there are certain restrictions. But for example, here I'm just looking for the month of February, and I see I worked on 20 filings that month. Each one of these rows represents a unique filing in different statuses. Now, again, they may be filings on the same case. Mid-First Bank case, I see several filings there. Okay. So I see whatever that form set number is, the submission name, the case number if there is one, the case type, current status, jurisdiction, if I applied a keyword matter number yet, if there are fees applied yet, right? Now, by default, this search result is sorted based on the form set number, with the biggest form set number, basically the most recent one, at the top. But I could resort this on any of these columns. I could basically resort it, let's say, on the case number, right? Or maybe that keyword matter number. Okay? Any way I'd like to. Okay? If I want to look at or work on any of these filings, once again, all I do is I click on the form set number. It'll take me right into that filing. Okay? Let's say that I do use the keyword matter number field. I want to see all the filings I worked on for my client A-23456. Don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. In all of 2017. Great. I worked on 23 filings for my client, for that client in 2017. And again, I can group them any way I want to. Right? The other nice thing is whatever search result you get here, you can export it to an Excel file format, which means any spreadsheet software, Google Sheets, Excel, anything that reads Excel, you can bring it in there, and now you can, subsort things and add up fees and all of that, right? So you can either search for filings because you want to look at them or work on them, or you can search for filings, based on a client or based on a particular case, and then export the list of filings for whatever purposes you might have. There's a question about when is the case number assigned for case initiation. That's really per court in terms of how they do that. But my understanding is that once they accept your filing and it goes from delivered to e-filed, they will have already included the new case number at that moment. So the moment it goes from delivered to e-filed and you're notified about that, there should already be a case number associated with it. I'm pretty sure all the courts do it that way. So yeah, thanks for that question. Good one. Okay, here are some other ways that you could use this functionality, and that is to manage your workload. Now, just notice that there are a lot of different criteria that you can use here. You can use them one at a time or in combination with each other. You can look for a specific form set, or you can say, show me all the filings I did on this particular case number. Jurisdiction, it's not capitalization does not matter, so I could just put in Pima here. All right, well, all 23 of those were in Pima, nothing unique there. Filing type, when you start getting into other case types other than general civil, if you're filing family law, whatever, you could separate them out that way as well. All right, but managing your workload is here's where it can be super helpful, is to look at the statuses. Now, as you can see here, there's a lot of statuses that TurboCourt has in its system, but most of those are not relevant to you. So the statuses that I talked about previously, completed, delivered to e-filed, right? Those three, maybe incomplete if you didn't finish answering the questions, potentially rejected if a court rejects a filing, right? So maybe those 5. So what if you were working on a filing and you didn't finish it and you don't remember what the form set number was? Well, just look for a recent filing. You'd put in a date range that was very recent. That's incomplete. Let's see if I have any others like this. Okay, let me figure out what would be a good way to do this. Okay, I know how I can do this. There we go. Okay, so some sort of a current date range. This obviously is not current. Incomplete. And then it's going to show you any of your form sets that you haven't finished answering the questions to. When I click on that form set, everything that was automatically saved up till that point is there. And now I just finish answering the remaining questions. Right? It's a great way to finish up your workload. Or look for your filings which you've completed, meaning you finished answering the questions, but you haven't yet delivered, probably because you're working on the documents that you're going to then attach, right? All right, so let me find my recently completed filings, and sure enough, there's the general civil filing I was working on. It's for the Lamex Corporation. I'm going to go ahead and click on that form set, and yeah, that's the document I was just working on, the Affidavit of Renewal of Judgment. I finished it. Great, let me attach it along with the supporting documents, maybe some other documents, right? And then I can submit it to the court. By the way, when you're on this screen, the filing, this particular review screen, you'll see, again, one of the buttons at the top here, List My Forms. Again, that's the one that will take you to the search screen, okay? So another way of managing your workload is show me all the ones that I haven't yet sent to the court that are just in completed mode, so I can finish them up. You might be wondering, if you're very busy, do I have any filings outstanding at the court that I'm waiting for them to accept? Look for your recently delivered filings and see if there's any that are still there that you're waiting for the court to process, right? And then lastly, look for e-filed filings if you want to access the conform stamped copies and or the electronic docket from the court, because that's your key to accessing those things. Anytime you're looking at a filing whose status is e-filed, that's when you're going to get access to the conform stamped copies and the View Court Case Documents button. Okay? I'm going to click List My Forms again. And so this search screen is super, super helpful in all sorts of ways. Okay, last thing, let's talk about you getting payment information as well as managing your saved payment methods like a credit card or checking out if you use those things. Okay, I'm going to go back to my home page here, and you'll notice off on the left-hand side there is a link called My Payments. Click on that, and you're going to see a search screen very similar to the one we just saw. Okay, except that we're going to be looking at filings from the perspective of what did we pay. So once again, I'm going to put in a date range, search my payment transactions. Oh, I don't want to look for e-filed, I just want to find them all. Okay, so in that time frame, I had 22 transactions. So again, each row is a unique filing. Could be the same case, but they're still unique filings. And because I'm looking at this from the financial perspective, as I scroll to the right, this list has a few additional pieces of information. It's going to show me if I used a saved payment method to pay for those fees. So apparently I used Karina's newer MasterCard for that one. I used the corporate account to pay for that one. Yeah, so here's a couple of filings, not a lot of money, but no saved payment method is listed, which means that I manually entered in my payment information, such as a credit card or a checking account, okay, as an example. If you have multiple pages, you'll see at the bottom your ability to scroll and navigate to the other pages, okay? And if I were to click on this live link transaction number, it's another way of accessing that payment receipt you saw earlier from AZTurboCourt that we incorporate into AZTurboCourt for you. Because this is a financial report, rather than the default sort order being based on the form set number, it's actually based on the transaction date and time, with the most recent transaction date and time at the top. But again, you can resort it based on any of these clickable column headings. And whatever search result you get, you can export to an Excel file format. So once again, how much did we pay in fees and so forth for my client A23456 in all of 2017? Okay, well, apparently there were 17 transactions, some on the MidFirst Bank case, some on that Ralph Gleason case, then there's the Lamex case, right? So I can get this list, send it to Excel file format, and then subgroup it to put all the MidFirst Bank filings together, and then add those fees up. The Ralph Gleason filings, add those up. So I have, subheadings of fees, and then a grand total of fees for the entire year, as an example, right? And so again, this is a very, very helpful tool for essentially accessing any of your AZTurboCourt fee information that you've paid for filings, okay? If you do use a save payment method, here you see payment account nickname. So if you did save a credit card and you're reusing it, or a checking account, you might be curious to know, you could do a search for how much did I put on that credit card in the last month or in the last 3 months for these AZTurboCourt filings, right? So if you're managing from the perspective of the save payment method, you could generate that report, okay? So that's very helpful. And scroll over to the far right. Notice in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button called Preferences for Reports. You can ask AZTurboCourt to automatically send you payment reports on a regular basis via email. So if that's helpful to you, click on that button, and you'll see you have 3 options here. You can request the payment report to be sent to you weekly, monthly, or bi-monthly, which is essentially twice a month. You can select one or several. You could say, hey, I want that report weekly and monthly. That's fine. Choose whatever your default sort order is going to be based on these options. And then whatever you select, when you click Save, AZTurboCourt will start sending you those payment reports via email on that regular interval. And what that's going to look like is you'll get an email. It'll look something like this. It might say weekly payment report if that's what you requested, and the date range for that week, the dollar amount, and then the report is attached. Again, it's an Excel file format. Or if you requested a monthly report, the date range of the month, whatever the dollar amount was, and it's attached. Okay? And if at any time you want to change that setting, you don't want the reports anymore, or you want to change their frequency, just come back to Preferences for Reports and change your settings. All right, very last thing I want to show you is your saved payment methods. If you are, in fact, going to save your credit card or bank account for your AZTurboCourt filings, then you're going to need to and want to manage those. Now, again, this is a testing and a training environment, so you're not going to have this many saved payment methods, I wouldn't think. However, it's important to note that some of these are clickable blue links and others are not. So what's that about? Well, if you yourself created the saved payment method, then you're going to be able to manage it, which means it's going to be a clickable blue link because you can make changes to it, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But the other possibility is that somebody else in your firm who has been designated as a financial administrator, they have the ability to pre-register payment methods, to pre-register a credit card or bank account, and then give you access to use it for your AZTurboCourt filings. situation, it will show here, but you're not going to be able to make changes to it. It's not your account. So see, these are all of the ones that Karina, created, but Donna, she gave me access to a few, and Dan, he gave me access to one, and so forth. Okay, so that's the distinction on this screen. All right, let's talk about managing your saved payment methods. All right, here's one called Karina's Newer MC 1122. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So first of all, notice that I can change that nickname anytime I want. It will not screw up what AZTurboCourt does in terms of being able to process the payment, and it's not going to mess up your payment reports, even for past payments. So if I changed it from newer to newest, for example, when I go to make a payment through AZTurboCourt, I'm going to see that new name. AZTurboCourt knows, remember that underlying key code that's actually associated with this? They know what that is. They know the associated payment method, this credit card. They'll process it. What we happen to call it, they don't care, right? Because they're looking at that underlying key code. Similarly, AZTurboCourt doesn't care when it comes to running our reports, because we are also running it based on that underlying key code. So we know all the past filings you use this credit card on, future filings, or new ones that you're using it for with that new name. Again, the new name doesn't affect your reports. You're fine with that. Okay. Now, what if you want to change the status of this particular payment method? Now, this credit card, as I can see here, is actually still valid. But what if I don't want to use it anymore? And I don't want it to show up for me in AZTurboCourt where I might inadvertently select it again and use it again when I don't want to, right? Well, I can't delete it because it's payment information. I need it for auditing purposes and reporting purposes. But I can make it inactive. So that's one of the other statuses. And so by making Karina's Newer MC 1122 inactive, and let me click Save, it's not here in my active list anymore, okay? Which means the next time I go to AZTurboCourt, it's not going to be available for me to use, okay? Now, let's say 6 months go by, I paid off that credit card, or for whatever reason I'm wanting to use it again. I don't have to recreate it. I can simply come here and say, well, find my inactive payment methods, find the one that I want, click on it, and I can simply reactivate it because it's still valid. There it is, and the next time I make a payment in AZTurboCourt, it'll be available to me. All right. Now let's talk about expiration dates, because I see here's 1/11/18, that's expired already. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. It's important for you to note that at this point in time, AZTurboCourt does not automatically expire your expired credit cards. Now, there's a number of technical reasons for that, but just suffice it to say that we won't do that. And so if you have a credit card and it's going to expire, or it did expire, and it doesn't happen that often, but it will happen from time to time, then simply come here and manually expire that credit card. Okay? Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, I had it reissued and everything's the same. It's the same bank, same credit card number, same security code. It just has a new expiration date. It's now good through 2024. Well, that's great, but the payment processor sees that as a brand new credit card. I can't simply rename it or anything like that, because to them, it's a brand new credit card, okay? So I'm going to have to manually expire this one, which I won't do right now, but I would do that. And then I'd simply register my new credit card with AZTurboCourt so that I can make use of it. And I don't have to actually wait for a filing that I'm sending through to register my new credit card with AZTurboCourt. I could, like you saw before, I could send a filing through, enter in my new credit card that just got reissued to AZTurboCourt, and then when it says, do you want to save this, I'll say yes, and I could do it that way. But if I don't have any filings right now, but I want to make sure I get that credit card in the system, I can pre-register it, and that's what you can do up here at the top. Click here to register a new credit card or bank account. And when I do that, it simply takes me to AZTurboCourt, where there's no filing information, right? I'm simply registering a credit card or a bank account. And when you get to this card description or account description here, that's what you should type in for what you'll use for the nickname, because that'll come back into AZTurboCourt and it'll be there for you. Now, you can, of course, edit the nickname anytime you want, but just so you know, it's helpful to put the card description there that you can use for the nickname. Once you provide this information and you click submit, of course, AZTurboCourt will make sure it's a valid payment method, and if it is, it will return you to AZTurboCourt, and your new payment method will now be included in your active list of payments, or payment methods, I should say. All right. We have just covered case initiation and quite a bit of other things surrounding it for AZTurboCourt. Before I go any further, because I'm going to wrap in about 30 seconds, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being an AZTurboCourt customer. We really do appreciate your business. We don't take it for granted. And yeah, we really do appreciate your business. And I also want to say that, I mentioned, earlier on, you could click help if you have any technical support issues, and you should do that for Arizona, filings and so forth, if you have any technical support issues. But feel free to reach out to us also if you have suggestions, ways to make your e-filing life better and easier. So if you have ideas for enhancements to any of the existing functionality or new functionality that you'd like to see, please do let us know that. We are very responsive to that sort of thing. It's often what drives new versions of our software. And so let me just show you. I'm going to go ahead and click on help again and contact us. And here at the bottom, you'll see this is really the best way, customer service at turbocourt.com, customer service at turbocourt.com. And just let us know what sort of functionality or enhancements you'd love to see in the future that would make e-filing better for you. If we need any clarifications, we'll just email you back and get a better understanding of what exactly it is you're needing and wanting. And with that, I will bring this training to a close. Remember, tomorrow you'll get an email with a link to the recording of this training. Feel free to share it with colleagues. Once again, thank you for being an AZTurboCourt customer, and I wish you a good rest of your day. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks. Appreciate that. Okay, take care.